Hey guys, my name is Lyle Birch with the Viking Speaks. Welcome to part 2 of 48 Laws of Power. Enjoy. Hey everyone, it's Lyle Birch again with the Viking Speaks. So, before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to share this video with all your friends, family, neighbors, and whoever. Maybe the guy down the road, doesn't matter. Get this content out to anyone we can, okay? Hit that subscribe button, and let's move on with part 2 of the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Today we have Law 25, recreate yourself. So in the judgment, he says, do not accept the roles that society foists on you. Recreate yourself by forging a new identity, one that commands attention and never bores the audience. Be the master of your own image rather than letting others define it for you. Incorporate dramatic devices into your public gestures and actions. Your powers will be enhanced and your character will seem larger than life. Now, in this lesson, he talks about Julius Caesar. Now, we all know Julius Caesar from the Ides of March, right? And his infamous demise. Julius Caesar was one of the most powerful dictators to ever come through the Roman Empire, and probably the most prolific. Reason for that is when he started coming to public light, he really came through as the person in charge of grain distribution as well as public games and dramas. You know, he was in charge of plays, setting up the gladiator events, chariot races, and all those such things. You know, the Greeks had their Olympics, they had the gladiator arenas and their games. And Julius Caesar was the one who was in charge of all that, right? So he was one of those kind of people who really understood how important it was to project certain images to the public, not only about within the games, but about himself. So as he, created these events and he became a public image, one of the things he did really well was he injected drama into his daily persona. Okay, so when he was out there and about and he became one of the most loyal, I think one of the most followed generals of all time, one of the things that he had always did, he got the strongest horse, he had the best swords, the best armor, the best everything, right? And he would always be the one at the front of the lines charging into battle. And there was a particular moment where, before they crossed the Rubicon and they went to battle with Pompey, he talks about this in there where originally, the generals were not so keen on the idea of going to war with some of their neighbors, and there was some hemming and hawing about it. But Caesar saw a soldier just outside of their tent at the bridge, sounded a horn, and began to walk across it. And he used that as an example and said, it is as if the gods command us to do so. Take this as a sign to march forward and claim what is ours. Now the words were maybe a wee bit different, but that was the general sense. And he did so in such a theatrical way, and that he looked in the eyes of each one of his generals and he commanded presence and he commanded emotion. And they were all so taken with what he said that regardless of their own concerns about it, they came out of that meeting with a sense of purpose and adoration for the commander, and went on to win that battle and eventually became the dictator of all of Rome as a result. Now, another person that commanded that kind of presence that I'm a big fan of personally because of his tactics and his leadership. He has a bit of a questioned history in that, but that's George S. Patton. George Patton was one of those guys who he became known as blood and guts, good old blood and guts. But one of the things he did was he commanded respect out of his people, because when he came through, he was about glory. And he had this way of parading himself around that people looked at him as if he was this larger-than-life character. Another one that makes me laugh a little bit. Have you ever seen the movie A Knight's Tale was Heath Ledger in there, and it's about this young man who came up through, he was poor, you know, and his dad sent him off to be the squire for a night. And he learned how to, you know, work in the stables and take care of the horses, take care of the saddles, take care of the armor and the swords and everything, make sure that the jousting, gosh, what the heck is this thing called? The joust? I don't know. Make sure that was in good repair and he was ready to go. Well, unfortunately, his master died and they were hungry. He took it over and he decided to change his start. And they created, through theatrics, thank you, Geoffrey Chaucer, so Ulrich von Liechtenstein. So in this law, one of the things that's really important is when you're going out there, you don't want to be, I guess, flamboyant maybe is the word. You're not trying to be, look at me, look at me, look at me. You don't want to have everybody turn their heads on you just to say, ooh, hey, ooh, pay attention to me. I need all this attention. It's about style, how you do it. You have to have poise, you have to command presence. Zig Ziglar said it doesn't matter where you start, it matters where you finish. So let's say, you know, myself, for example, I came into a very humble family and we went all the way down from humble to very poor. And by all rights and purposes, if I followed that pathway, I should have never left my small town where I grew up. I should have never had any sort of financial capabilities, and I certainly shouldn't be in front of you. So, but you know, the thing about it is, when you're out there to change your stars and you're recreating yourself, most important aspect of it is that you need to have an idea of where you want to be, who you want to be. It doesn't matter where you are now. In the book, The Power of Consistency by Weldon Long, this guy was in prison. And it took his father passing while he was in prison as a young adult before he finally realized, like, I don't want to be this guy. And the words of Ralph Waldo Emerson, we are what we think about all day long. That rang true with him, and that really got that thought process going. It's like, how can I recreate myself? Well, it's all about your subconscious mind. And it starts there and it works outward until eventually you can be like someone like Caesar, and you can have a theatric presence in which you command attention from all those around you with not with it's not synthetic, it's organic, you know, and people are going to naturally be attracted to you because of who you become. So, one formula. Thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to actions, actions lead to results. You want to create yourself, you gotta restart. You're starting with the mind, okay? We all have subconscious programming that comes from where we're at, where we're brought up, the things we've seen, all of our life's experiences. We can't take away those experiences. But what we can do is we can say, just like it talks about in the Power of Consistency book, we have our box of stuff. What's in your box of stuff is what is your basic subconscious programming. Now you can reprogram your subconscious by taking and analyzing that box of stuff and saying, I don't want that in there, I want this in there. And slowly but surely over time and consistency, you're replacing your old thought processes and your old subconscious programming with new, more supportive, more successful, powerful thought processes. Something to think about, y'all. That's all I got for today. Make sure you subscribe, get this video out there, and I'll be back to talk to you tomorrow about Law 26. Much love, y'all. Bye now.